Hi, it's Mark from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here with Bernie Pawlik of the famous Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver, 16-time winners of Best Auto Repair in Vancouver as voted by their customers. How are you doing today, Bernie?
Doing very well, Mark.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about buying a good used car and some of the other pitfalls to be avoided. What are some of those?
So I'm going to talk about some categories of cars that you should be extremely possibly avoid completely, but if you're going to buy one, just be extremely cautious. So I've basically broken it into 4 areas. First one, rebuilt write-offs. Second, old cars. Third, rusty vehicles. And fourth, vehicles that are priced low because they need a lot of work. So these are some of the areas where you need to tread with extreme caution.
All right, so rebuilt write-offs is the first category. What is a rebuilt write-off, and why would I want to be cautious about that?
So a rebuilt write-off is basically a vehicle that's been damaged to the point where the insurance company has written the vehicle off. It's basically not repairable. But that doesn't mean it isn't repairable. It's just not economically repairable. To say you crash your car, it costs $10,000 to fix. The car's worth, say, $9,000 or $10,000. They decide, we're not going to fix the car, we're just going to scrap it. So that doesn't mean it would cost $10,000 to go to the conventional body shop route, but for somebody who would buy the car for cheap, they might be able to get used parts, put the car together and make it work and sell it and make some money. But this is where you got to be really cautious. You need to know what was the damage and who repaired it. I've seen some cars that have been so badly repaired, it's scary. And so you can save money by buying a rebuilt write-off, but often the savings are not to be had at all. Example, I had a customer who bought it was only about a 1-year-old Chevy Cavalier. It's a few years back. Paid about $4,000 less than the going rate for a year-old Cavalier. The car had been so badly repaired. I mean, the first clue was that when we found 2 oxygen sensor wires had been plugged together the wrong way. So it was very evident that whoever had worked on this car had no idea what they were doing with cars. They had a transmission leak, but long story short, by the time he was done getting the car back into reasonably good operating shape, it cost him the same amount of money as it would have cost to buy a good used Cavalier. If he bought that used Cavalier, he still would have had a couple of years warranty on it, because once your car's written off, there's no manufacturer's warranty anymore. And he would have not had a car with a rebuilt title on it. And who knows what else is really wrong with the car too. I mean, you just never know. So, so that's a good lesson to avoid. A happy story with a rebuilt write-off. We had a customer a while ago with a CX-5 Mazda, had dents all over the roof and hood, and it was pretty evident when you looked at it. This thing was probably in a hailstorm, and it was dented everywhere. And I talked to the customer about it. So yeah, we bought this thing. It was a rebuilt write-off from Alberta. It was pretty cheap, and you know, that's probably a pretty good deal. If you're happy to live with a dented car, you know, and pay less money, mechanically it's perfect. So that's the thing about the rebuilt write-off. I'll just share something here. If you're wondering how you know the vehicle's a write-off, of course you might want to ask the person you're buying it from, and they should tell you. Is this showing, Mark? No, it's not. Is it? Can you see this? Are you seeing me? Sorry?
It's up now.
Okay, cool. Okay. So this is a copy of a British Columbia insurance paper, of a vehicle registration paper. You notice the red arrows I put in there. It says vehicle status. If this vehicle is a rebuild,
we're back to you, Bernie. So
back to me. Okay. Let's see what's going on here. Let's see if we can reshare this thing, because this is an important piece of information to know. All right. All right. Let's try this again. Do we see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so there is arrows pointing to a line that says vehicle status. And right there, if this is a rebuilt, if you're buying a rebuilt vehicle, the words rebuilt will be right in that area. So that's something to look for.
So what is that form?
That is a registration. That's a vehicle registration form in British Columbia. Every car has one. So I don't know other provinces and states all have registration sheets. They should have something that mentions that, because a rebuilt vehicle in Canada is the same as a rebuilt vehicle in the United States. It's all, and it carries with the title and the serial number of the vehicle all the way, no matter where you go with it. So the other downside of a write-off vehicle, as I may have mentioned, is it's always worth less money. So if you buy a rebuilt write-off for less money than, say, the going rate, when you go to sell it, you're going to get less money too. Of course, when a car is 15 years old, is anyone going to care? maybe not. But you really got to think about it. I personally would just avoid buying a write-off vehicle, no matter what the price is.
So your second category was old cars. How do you define old cars, and why should they be approached with caution?
So old cars, and I mean, these are, everyone has a different opinion of an old car, because I mean people who have a 4-year-old car go, oh, my car is getting old. But to me, a 4-year-old is not an old car, it's still practically brand new. I mean, to me, like after 10 years, a car's starting to get old, more things go wrong. I mean, once you hit the 15 to 20-year range, you're really looking at the realm of old cars. And the thing is, when cars get older, it's harder to get parts. They become less mainstream. It's harder to get new parts, harder to get used parts, and more stuff goes wrong with the car. So again, you know, you can buy old cars for cheap. But we see so often people, they buy like an old, like a 1992 Mercedes, and you know, it's a nice car, but it's old and things go wrong. They cost a lot to fix. Newer cars are also a lot easier to diagnose and repair than older ones were. So I personally, unless you really want an old car, like if it's a classic, that's probably worth the money and it's going to be your second car. But if you're looking for a daily driver, I'd avoid an old car. You're just going to run into problems, and you're going to be in our shop a lot more frequently than you probably want to be, and probably be disgruntled about spending the money. But you know, if it's something you really want, this car, you love it, it's great, and you're willing, again, it's always approaching it with your eyes open, knowing what you're going to get into, you know, knowing that you're going to have more repairs and parts might be harder to find, then it's okay. But personally, I'd avoid it.
All right, so next on your list was rusty cars. This seems pretty obvious, but why should we avoid rusty cars?
Well, rusty cars, I mean, it's like buying I don't know, I hate to say this, but it's like dating someone with cancer and you're hoping for a long life. You know, it's not going to last. But I mean, rusty cars are safety compromised. Again, you're probably going to get one for cheaper. Again, this goes in the cheap car category, at least we hope. But the repairs can be more expensive as well, because things like brake lines rust out, and just parts that don't normally need to be fixed on a non-rusty vehicle cost more money to fix. So again, you know, if you're buying a used car, I would avoid anything with, you know, excess rust. And especially, you know, if you're in a collision, rust is, you know, it weakens the vehicle, so you could be hurt more severely.
So your last category is vehicles that need a lot of work. What do you mean by that?
So sometimes you can come across a vehicle that's, you know, that's for sale, that's substantially below the market value, and it's because it needs some work. I think a really good example we had a while ago, had a customer bought a Range Rover. It was about, I don't know, he paid like $15,000 for it, when the going rate on these particular Range Rovers in good condition was about 25. So that's a lot cheap, you know, that's 10,000 bucks off. It's a great deal. But this vehicle looked like someone that, I mean, it's kind of shocking for a luxury vehicle that someone would treat this thing like a piece of garbage. I mean, the interior had like scratches and scrapes, and there was, you know, parts missing. It was someone's beater. But I guess if you have, you know, if you make $1 million a year, you can afford to turn a Range Rover into a beater. But this car, it had like mechanical problems, and it had like the body had, you know, a few scratches and scrapes. And long story short, by the time we ended up fixing the vehicle back into decent running condition, he paid about, I think he paid about $7,000 or $8,000 in repairs. So that put the vehicle from 15 up to about 23,000, and the vehicle still aesthetically needed some cleanup and work and some other mechanical items. So really, you got to be very cautious when you buy these kind of things, you know, to really do the math, to really look at it and go, what am I actually really going to be spending? Because honestly, he would have been probably better off to spend 25,000 bucks on a nice Range Rover, you know, that someone had taken good care of. I mean, karmically, it also feels better when you buy a car where someone's taken care of. But again, cars that need a lot of work usually end up not being worthwhile. But, you know, again, you got to do the math. And what I realize the theme with all these stories is, give us a call a mechanic you trust and say, I'm looking to buy this vehicle. It's rebuilt right off. What do you think? Or this car's got a bit of rust. You know, this car needs a bunch of work. Do you think it's worth it? And, you know, just run it by your professional and get an opinion. It's the best way to save money and make sure. Sort of thinking to myself, you know, like an ounce of gold is, say, worth $1,000. If you can get it for 900 bucks, well, that's a good deal. But with a car, you never know whether a used car is really worth. It's hard to equate. Looking at that, there's a lot of variables. Whereas an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold, we hope.
So if you want some help with your gold purchases or your cars, and you're in Vancouver, give Bernie Pawlik a call at 604-327-7112. Book your used vehicles in for a repair or maintenance, or if you're looking at buying something, if you need an inspection, they are experts at it. They've seen a lot in many, many years of doing this. Or check out their website, pawlikautomotive.com. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark.